Assalamu alaikum. In the battle between the true aqeeda of the Hanbalis, the detractors often point to the books of Sunnah of Abdullah, the son of Ahmed bin Hanbal radiallahu anhu, and the book of Sunnah of Harb al-Kirmani. The books are known to contain some extreme statements that can lead one to misguidance or even tajseem. Despite this, these books are often used to refute the true Hanbalis and accuse them of being Jahmis. I've done a previous video on the book of the Sunnah by Abdullah bin Ahmed bin Hanbal, and today we're going to be discussing the book of Sunnah by Harb al-Kirmani with reference to what two of our great sheikhs, Sheikh Dr. Mustafa and Sheikh Faris al-Khazraji, hafadhumullah, have both recently stated regarding this book, Kitab, a-Sunna, Harb al-Kirmani. First, I'll start with a statement by our Sheikh Dr. Mustafa hafadhullah, on the authentication of aqeeda. The Sheikh says, the aqeeda of Harb al-Kirmani isn't valid in its chain of transmission or text, even though it became well known by many of today's famous people such as al-Khalifi, al-Tarifi, al-Madkhali, al-Haji, al-Anqari, and the Shamsuddin. And this became mixed between the book of Masail, or issues, of Harb with this treatise of aqeeda. So they taught it and spread it among the people, and although they warn against weak hadith, they fall into weak and reprehensible aqeeda, despite what they contain of proof of movement, meaning al-haraka, and sitting, al-qu'ud, and exaggeration in takfir, al-ghulu fi takfir. Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah said in his book al-Istiqamah, this aqeeda isn't established for Imam Ahmed in terms of its wording. I looked at 3 obscure chains of narration for it from unknown men, and the words are the words of Harb bin Ismail, not the words of Imam Ahmed. Those concerned with collecting the words of Imam Ahmed, such as Abu Bakr al-Khalal, didn't mention it in the book of Sunnah, nor others from among the Iraqis who are knowledgeable about the book of Ahmed, nor did those who are well known in relating the words of the Imam, especially such a great treatise, even though it became well known with many of the later people. And this is the end of the quote of Shaykh Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. Shaykh Mustafa concludes, what's required is to teach the mass-transmitted aqeeda books relied upon in studying the Hanbali aqeeda. Our Shaykh Faris al-Khazraji, hafadhullah, he's also discussed this book, and in a short letter that he wrote entitled The Rebuttal of referring to the statement of Harb al-Kirmani about movement or haraka, he says, contemporary Selefism draws its evidence from the book, meaning the Sunnah of Harb al-Kirmani, rahimahullah, in which there are sayings he mentioned about movement, meaning haraka, in an attempt to find an imam to rely on, especially from the Hanbalis. And the reason for this is the scarcity of what they can cite from the imams and the doctrinal sources, combined with the separation of scholarly reception between them and Taqiyuddin rahimahullah. Then there was a break between them and the imams, whether by chain of transmission or finding of text, as I mentioned previously. In this article, I will discuss the invalidity of the inference from Harb's statement, rahimahullah. And we say, by Allah's success. Number one, Harb saying that he moves, in haraka, has no evidence from the text of the two revelations, meaning the Quran and Sunnah, and none of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum said that. 2. Harb's statement has no place in the argument because his statement is not evidence, especially since Harb died in the year 280 Hijri, and the principle is that the scholar's statement cannot be used as evidence, meaning for aqeeda. 3. Harb's statement contradicts what the Imams of the Selef agreed upon regarding the text to pass on, establish, without interpretation, meaning tafsir. It's related that al-Walid bin Muslim said, سألت الأوزاعي وثوري ومالك بن آنس والليث بن سعد عن الأحاديث التي في الصفات وكلهم قال أميروها كما جاءت بلا تفسير. And this means al-Walid bin Muslim related to us. He said, I asked al-Awza'i, al-Thawri, Malik bin Anis, and al-Layth bin Sa'ad about the hadiths of the attributes, and they all said they pass on them as they came without explanation. 4. No narration or text was quoted from Imam Ahmed that states the movement or al-haraka. Once again, no narration or text was quoted from Imam Ahmed that states movement. Number 5. Taqiyuddin, meaning Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, criticized the chain of transmission of the book of the Sunnah, the aqeeda doctrine that he spoke of, and what he said about haraka or movement. This indicates to us an important matter that I always mention, which is that contemporary Salafism does not accept all of Taqiyuddin's sayings, but rather what agrees with their whims, not what agrees with the evidence. And then he goes on to quote what Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah mentioned in his book al-Istiqamah, which we previously quoted. Number 6. Contemporary Salafism's evidence is divided into two parts regarding the issue of establishing the meanings of attributes in the Arabic language. They are either not disputed, such as citing the text of the Imams establishing the attributes of Allah Ta'ala, or they are rational evidence, and this is the majority of them. Shaykh Faris continues, the text related of Harb is indicated according to reason and has no place in aqeeda or belief. Academic research requires following the path of the principles of reasoning in any Sharia issue, let alone issues of aqeeda or belief. The foundations of the madhab of our Imam radiyallahu anhu are what is proven by a text of the Quran and the authentic Sunnah, or what is issued by one of the companions radiyallahu anhum regarding the attributes of Allah Ta'ala. We have taken it and stated it, and what wasn't stated we do not say even if someone has said it. And I'll repeat the last part. We have taken it and stated it, and what wasn't stated we do not say even if someone has said it. And the Shaykh Faris concludes there. I've heard both of these sheikhs discuss this book on other occasions, and what we can conclude is that we don't completely reject the book. The book has many things that are authentic and correct, but it also has errors, as what was highlighted, and that's why we don't rely on this book. So those who want to study the book need to know about its narrations, what is authentic and what isn't authentic, and they need to know about the usul of the madhab, what we take as evidence in aqeeda and what we don't take as evidence. And because this book, like Abdullah bin Ahmed bin Hanbal's book, radiyallahu anhu, has some issues. That's why we don't rely on these books, whereas we rely on the other famous books of the madhab in aqeeda, books like Lu'mat al-I'tiqad by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qudama, Qala'id al-Qiyan by Ibn Balban, Al-Ain wal-Athar by al-Mawahibi, Nihayat al-Mubtadi'in by Ibn Hamdan, Ad-Durr al-Mudiyya by al-Safarini. These works are the fruits of the efforts of our predecessors, and they represent what has been authenticated in the madhab. If Kitab, a-Sunna by Abdullah bin Ahmed bin Hanbal radiallahu anhu, or Kitab, a-Sunna by Harb al-Kirmani, if these were the authentic, relied upon books of the madhab, we would see that people would have been using these books and writing, for example, shuruh or explanations of these books, or we would have seen that the great scholars of the madhab in aqeeda would have also referenced these books. Does Ibn Qudama mention these books? Does Shirazi mention these books? Does Ibn al-Zaghuni mention these books? Does Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani mention these books? Does Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, does he mention these books? Who mentions these books? For those who want to continue with the type of conspiracy theory type of thinking, you have to yourself question, why is even Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rejecting this book? So we ask you to please leave these books for the authenticator scholars of the madhab to tell us what we take and what we leave from these books, and please also leave the lens of how you read aqeeda if you're influenced by these books, because even if you leave the book but you still have some of the ideas that these books have, as far as some of the wrong ideas, it will then still affect you on how you read the authentic books of the madhab, like Ibn Qudama's books, for example, Lu'mat al-I'tiqad and others. If you're reading that book through that lens, you will still get to an incorrect conclusion. If you leave this type of thinking, and you leave the rampant insults and calling people innovators and Jahmis and the like, I think you'll see that the official explanation of how aqeeda was received from the time of the Sahaba and the Selef to al-Imam Ahmed to our time is actually quite coherent and logical. And the alternate explanation will seem quite aberrant and extreme. For those who are misguided, may Allah guide them. For those who are upon guidance, may Allah keep them upon guidance. Oh Allah, please protect our Shaykh, Dr. Mustafa Aliyan. Oh Allah, please protect our Shaykh, Faris al-Khazraji. Let us benefit from their knowledge and the knowledge of our predecessors, those in the abode of this life and the next. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.